This is FCTV, fan-controlled television. Programs created and produced for the fans, by the fans of fan-controlled sports and entertainment. As always, power to the fans. And now, it's time for the show.
And what a show.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Whoa, why do we go big? This is where we want to live. We want to operate here. We got to operate here. In fact, hold on one second. I got to close this door behind me.
Oh, he's doing that. I'm going to vamp. Hi, I'm Alex Enriquez. He's Kenny Stevenson. Welcome to Fan-Controlled Fandom.
That's how you know it's live, baby.
Sports and
That's how you know this is not pre-taped. This is not pre-taped at all.
I just introed you, the show, the network, and it honestly, I don't think I have a rest of a day in me.
That was it. Thanks for watching.
Oh, my God, it's a lot.
You're a lot. You know what else is a lot? We are. Thank you very much. We're at our normally we're at noon. We're going at 2 today because I had a meeting I had to be on. And you know, that's just life. That's life, and that's life in the Cape space, which is where we're operating, and fan-controlled fandom at all times. If there is a person wearing a cape, we're talking about it, except this week we're not, because the person that we're talking about this week definitely does not wear a cape. So
yeah, and I'll tell you this, where I'm at in my life, I did have a meeting and I said, look, y'all, I have something actually important to do. This could have been an email. I'll be back when I'm done with my show. And I'll tell you what, I was immediately fired. So that's the kind of
I was going to say
that I'm willing to make for you, and I'm pointing at the viewer.
Thank you very much. I hope you obviously can hear me because you're responding. I'm not getting much in my headphones at the moment, but you know, as long as you can hear me.
I can hear you just fine. And for the rest, it might be appropriate that we, I should have followed up on that whim I had while watching the subject of today's episode, that I was like, I should take up some ASL, because then we'd be able to communicate through the medium of sight.
Exactly, because what we are talking about today that doesn't involve capes is Echo.
Echo.
I thought I was waiting for you. Oh, man, we truly thank you, everybody. A Friday and a long weekend. Usually
I eat lunch after the show, but today, because of the shift in time, I had to eat lunch before the show. So I'm in what Dr. Pepper would diagnose as a sugar crash.
Hey, oh yeah, 2:30 is those advertisements for 5-hour energy is always like, are you feeling that 2:30 crash? That's like the opportune time. Sidebar, you know, it's that sugar crash, what you said. So a lot of people think you should just then drink some sort of either caffeinated beverage, but that could potentially just be adding more sugar. What you actually should do is, you are dehydrated. You should actually drink water at 2:30, and rehydrating yourself will actually make yourself feel more awake.
I'll do you one better. Look up a little something called the mammalian diving reflex. Dip your head in a bucket of water and kick Juan Valdez back down the mountain, buddy. What?
I love this. I love where we're starting right now. Have you ever heard of a coffee nap?
No.
So this is like a thing that like people actually believe is like, they stand by it. People who do it. You drink a cup of coffee, like right before you want to take a nap, like in maybe mid-morning at like maybe 10 o'clock. You don't have your morning coffee. At around like 10 or 11, you drink your coffee, then you take a 20-minute nap. And then basically you wake up feeling like super refreshed, because it's like right as the caffeine is like kicking in. It's such a weird phenomenon, but people freaking swear by it.
I feel like I would become some sort of shadow self, and like I would come to my senses in the middle of spaces. Like, how did I get here? You know, like Moon Knight or whatever. Some sort of weird dissociation.
I love it. Welcome back to Coffee Talk.
We've gone.
I'm Linda Richmond.
So far afield. We're 2 hours later, and it's really, you know, it might as well be 3. And I don't know what that means, but I think you do.
I do, but I do. Wow. Let's just keep it on. Let's just keep it pushing, baby.
Boy.
Before we talk about our main topic, which is going to be episodes 1 and 2 of the newest Marvel show, the first Marvel spotlight, which we're going to dive into what that means. Echo, we have to talk about the quick pieces of nerd news, and there's a lot of nerd news this week. This was a busy nerd week of news, but we got to play our stinger. Here's the quick hit stinger. Here it comes. Quick hits.
The greatest piece of media ever devised. My favorite thing ever.
Yeah, it's the greatest piece of media that you will ever see in your life, ever. Okay, the biggest news this week is, we have been talking about many. There was the big announcement last year. I don't know if it was at D23 where they announced the Star Wars movies. Was it Star Wars Fest down in Anaheim? Whatever. One of those fests of things they have near Disney in Anaheim.
It was at Stan Lee's funeral. They actually, Bob did it during the eulogy. It's like, just a couple quick things just on top of this. I know.
Yeah, we're making 3 Star Wars movies, and Daisy Ridley's here. So there was 3 movies, and we were operating under the impression as early as like last week, I believe we were talking about the Daisy Ridley Rey new movie that was supposed to be the first one to start filming. Just this week, Disney was like, psych. The next movie coming to the big screen that's going to start shooting this year is going to be directed by Jon Favreau, and it's supposedly just going to be titled The Mandalorian and Grogu. So, and this is a separate film from what Dave Filoni, one of the other announced films, was supposed to be a film by Dave Filoni that was supposed to kind of wrap up everything that's happening in that timeline of The Mandalorian, of Ahsoka, of Book of Boba Fett, which Tamora Morrison said recently he does not think season 2 is coming, and Skeleton Crew. But this is wholly separate from that. This is going to be another movie that's just Mando and Grogu. Jon Favreau said, "I've loved telling stories set in the rich world that George Lucas created. The prospect of bringing the Mandalorian and his apprentice Grogu to the big screen is extremely exciting, and that's what's happening. And it's there's now 4 movies coming. I don't know, thoughts and prayers."
I think it's sort of T's and P's all the way around, because I think that the way that they sort of left those 2 at the end of the last season with that little sort of vignetted spot on them is the perfect mysterious sort of pivot point. It was hey, we're irising out on these guys, we're sort of minimizing their importance, but also we're focusing now just on them, and something, it could potentially be something that's a little more contained, like Solo. I don't them on a little separate adventure, not getting really into stuff. I could be totally wrong, though. This could be how we find out that why Grogu wasn't at the Battle of Exegol at the end of Rise of Skywalker or whatever.
Grogu, at the end of this thing, Grogu literally makes a Palpatine clone, and then that Palpatine clone finds Rey, and it solves everything. This definitely won't be like a case of the week, like the Mandalorian 10, like the first 2 seasons especially, were like, I'll get you that piece. I'll tell you where you can go find this Jedi, but first you got to go kill this monster in the cave. Which, by the way, if that's all we get, that'd be kind of cool too. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out in terms of what this is going to follow, because they did this intentionally because of Filoni's movie, which they said was already going to have the Mandalorian in it. So, this probably would be some sort of lead up to that, I would assume.
There's so much bucket they can fill here. I think they've done a really good job in this sort of, and they probably have a really cool name, like a space name for them, laser buckets or whatever. But
laser buckets.
The
buck toes.
But not that. They've done a really good job of place setting in this part of the continuity right now, with Ahsoka's in a completely different galaxy with people that we're willing to follow through that, and Thrawn's on the horizon out there, the Mandalorians, and the beast that's under the water of Mandalore, and all that is a very rich vein that I think what they're going to wind up doing through the Ahsoka show, the season 2, and through this Grogu Mandalorian movie.
Alert. Well, I was
what's
good.
gonna
That
wind
was
up
the next piece of news, but that's fine. Just dropped it
I
in
was
there
looking ahead.
seamlessly.
I think that what they're going to do is create enough kind of goo-ga around a conflict that we won't really need to see the original characters participate in. Because that's what we're ultimately coming up against, is that Han, Leia, and Luke are all in this world, and they're 10 years older, 15 years older than they were in Jedi, and they would be involved in any kind of enormous conflict.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Like, you can't just have C-3PO showing up in Ahsoka being like, General Leia sent me over. Like,
he's got a gun.
No, that was the episode of Ahsoka. Remember where C-3PO showed up and was like, got Hera out of trouble? I would love to see some Hera Syndulla. I mean, I have no problem. Mary Elizabeth Winstead and all of the things, fine by me.
Is Dorian getting suspicious that one episode of the behind the scenes where they focus on making her costume is like on the frequently watched list?
Why didn't you watch this again last night? What did you?
You just keep.
Yeah, no. There was the other news you dropped in there and this was just in like kind of the same announcement. It was like, they're making this movie, and then all of a sudden, also this is going to be separate from the Dave Filoni movie, who is developing a season 2 of Ahsoka right now. So season 2 of Ahsoka is go, and then eventually they Star Wars on social media put out a picture, basically like a sketch of one of the Mortis gods that we saw Ray Stevenson at the end of my brother from another mother, Ray Stevenson, on at the end of Ahsoka, his like 2 minutes in the finale, on top of these statues, and it was basically Ahsoka and Sabine on that same statue. How they're gonna navigate Ray Stevenson not being alive, who knows? I mean, they made like Robot Luke a couple times in this show, in this post in this Mandalorian timeline. So I don't know, maybe they'll digitally make him, or I don't know, maybe just have him like, and then he like turns into another actor or something. I don't know. Once you step past this door, your face will be forever changed. And then
Ooh, yeah,
done.
Hide
You're
your
welcome.
shame behind this black helm or something like that.
Yep.
I
yes. Your face is permanently scarred, and you must wear this helmet at all times. Yeah, that'll
Doctor Doom, the old Doctor Doomy. I think
the old Doctor Doom excuse.
One of these days, with either somebody that's canceled and they can't use their character anymore, or they've passed away or whatever, in some property, the character should just stumble on a skeleton with like an iconic element of that character's wardrobe and go like, oh shoot, I guess he got eaten or something, and just move along from it, never refer to it again. Just like we close the loop. I guess a bear got him, or a space bear, a laser bear. I guess he got by the laser bear. Or a force bear, something weird.
I dare any piece of content. I feel like it's such a part of the zeitgeist now that you could do it. Somebody needs to Poochie the dog. Somebody. I just want to be like boop 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 boop. I went back to my home planet.
You see the bracket holes at the bottom of the cell as it. Yeah,
it's so great.
I want somebody to get Poochied and never. Yeah. It's never talked about.
Yeah, because I personally don't want to see Ray Stevenson get Poochied, not just because anybody named Stevenson is an absolute gem and a treasure and should be embraced by the world for all to love, but also I just thought his character. We both had nothing but wonderful things to say about Baylan Skoll. His character was fantastic, and it's kind of a bummer that we're not going to get as Ray Stevenson. I mean, I don't know. They have to recast it. I can't imagine where they're just going to be like, he went off to go find something, and he died on their way, is basically what they're going to have to do, I guess, if they don't recast it.
Couple things vis-a-vis Ahsoka season 2. I think that what you get to do with characters like him now is like, oh, he's on a quest, and that quest will take exactly how long for ILM to really nail digitally cloning somebody, and then they'll just he came back as a digital actor. At point number B, Baylan Skoll's costume my favorite costume in Star Wars maybe ever. Just love it.
I know that's saying something from someone, a man who literally owns a Han Solo costume.
And point number C, I would implore eagle-eyed viewers of the big broadcast to search their memory banks for when I broke the news that Ahsoka was getting a season 2, maybe 6 months ago, when I noted from a scooper that an item that some sort of IP registry had been listed for Ahsoka season 2 or Ahsoka as a series and not a limited series, so that the official classification of it, suggesting there'd be a season 2, had sort of been taken care of behind the scenes before this announcement. And I'd brought that news to you, the big broadcast viewer, the moment I saw it.
And that's what the people come here for. They come for the fun. They stay for the hot scoops brought by Alex and Kenny over here. This guy, I gotta say, the patent stuff, the fact that we as a society have now been like, oh, well, I checked the patent office and such company has registered for this thing. So that's how we know this is happening. I follow a lot of alternative football threads, and people are like, there's the new league happening. And if a new league happening, it's like, hey, I noticed that they registered this name, this name, this name, and this name through the U.S. patents. It took me 3 hours and I found it.
Yep.
Sorry. Wait, Alex, hold on. Mercurial Amalgam in the chat says, hello, sorry for bothering you. I want to offer promotion of your channel, viewers, followers, chats, bots, etc. This is just like we had. This is a very similar tone to the person who came on the broadcast last week to drop about how they could get, there's lower prices than any competitor. They can get a flexible and convenient order management panel, all the things. Don't follow the link, but hey, thanks for coming in to check out the content.
One thing is for 100% sure, anybody with a really smart and poetic name like Mercurial Amalgam has got to be intriguing, mysterious, and leading an intriguing and mysterious life that I, for one, would like to know a little bit more about. So if we could get a little view behind the sales pitch, I, for one, wouldn't mind turning over the entire broadcast to that.
Mercurial Amalgam. Mercurial Amalgam sounds like a Rebel Moon character, and that segues us perfectly into this next piece of content.
It sounds like a Navy SEAL Team 6 mission in the year 2170. It's like we've really run out of ideas.
Mercurial Amalgam has to take out whoever assassinated Hunter Biden Jr. the Third.
Mecca Bush 12.
Mecca Bush 12. We've been talking a lot about the Rebel Rune based on the novel Push by Sapphire, about how it's a 2-parter. The second part's coming in April. Zack Snyder there already is. You don't have to go online to demand that they release the Snyder Cut. They're going to release the Snyder Cut of the first part, and we have just announced that it's going to be announced over the summer. And it's going to be released over the summer, and it's going to be with over an hour of footage. And we've already, first of all, this quote coming up here. Snyder says that the idea was always that there would be a second version of the film. He maintains that this never happened on his previous director's cuts. All my other director's cuts are me just reacting to the studio, getting noted and then freaking out and then running to home video to save me. So just to give people a peek behind where the sausage is being rolled down the hill, there is every movie, usually like any main big director, if you're making a studio film, the first thing you do is after it's done, you get to make your cut of the film. And then the studio then gives you notes, and then you do, based on how confident they are in the job that you did, they may let you do some reshoots. They may tell you your services are no longer needed and bring somebody else to do reshoots, as in the case of Tony Gilroy on Rogue One. But what Snyder is saying is that, yes, he keeps all of his director cuts. But again, Netflix doesn't note like other studios do. Netflix is known for letting auteurs just do whatever they want and kind of let them. So it's insane that this is happening. It's insane that we get another hour of this movie that was already too long. And again, I want to stress the fact that he said that it has definitely going to have a lot more sex. So, hey, we did it.
I think at least one nipple would be cold comfort for all our troubles. And I think I
You
think
got
that
that. The one guy was shirtless for half the movie.
you know what kind I'm talking about. I want to see a weird
Hey-o.
one. I want to see something. I want to see somebody have sex with something weird.
We've
And I
talked about
think
it on
that
the
we'll
big
get it.
broadcast many times. We talked about it all the time about how do these, if it's got two legs and it doesn't matter what color this, like if it's like blue skin with tentacles on its head, if it's got two legs,
Get in them.
everything weighs down is human anatomy, apparently.
It's in play. In quotes.
Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, we get a little more spicy.
Watch out, Hawaii. It's lunchtime. I think that this whole thing where look, we're gonna have to the next movie that's announced that Zack Snyder is gonna do. We have to immediately get the hashtag trending. Don't release the Snyder Cut,
Yeah,
or just release the Snyder Cut, or something. Because all this,
release the
like,
studio cut.
either that or it's release the studio cut, release the Netflix cut. Either that or this is just what's his face, bottle rocket guy,
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. He does the specific framing and the symmetry and the aspect ratios. Zack Snyder does these multi-tiered releases that frustrate everybody. It's just part of his artist's brush.
Yeah, it's one of his tools that he keeps in his belt. Is he can always, some people can tell a story, other people can grossly overtell a story.
Some people can tell a story, some people can't be stopped.
Exactly. Somebody who can't be stopped, who is just so hot right now, is Pedro Pascal. Speaking of The Mandalorian, so he hasn't been officially announced as Reed Richards. At first, he was officially announced, and then they were like, actually, maybe not, but he's definitely Reed Richards at this point. It's now looking like not only does he want to be Reed Richards, he might have to leave a project that he's already committed to, which is called Weapons. That's from the director of a movie that I know you did not watch, called Barbarian, because it's scary. Great movie though, and so he probably won't be able to do this movie because that's much he wants to be in Fantastic Four as Reed Richards. And I just say to that, I say yum yum.
Perfection. I think if anybody could find, I think it might be easy for a different kind of performer to make the character very one note, and I think Pedro Pascal will find some dimension there, and he's aged appropriately, and we can only hope that so will his Susan Storm.
Well, they're saying, I'm reading in all of the nerd buzz, is that it seems like it's going to be Vanessa Kirby, who we talked about a couple weeks ago, who is from the first two seasons of The Crown, from Mission Impossible. She's currently in theaters in Napoleon. She's definitely not young, like she's not in her 20s, but she probably is like early 30s. So, I mean, Pedro Pascal, I believe, is close to 50. So that's, but 50 for a man in Hollywood is like Hollywood 28. So I think that Hollywood probably still thinks that's okay. And then,
everything's broken.
I didn't recognize the name they were talking about to play Johnny Fire Guy, but I did see the name of who they're thinking, who is supposedly rumored to be the Thing. Have you read this?
Eben Moss, Bacharach,
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Yeah. For all you Old Testament heads. All you Old Testament heads, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. It's also a BC Boys song. Anyway, the guy, cousin from The Bear, who's also was in the first season of Andor. Yeah, he seems to be the frontrunner to play Thing. And if that's what's happening, I mean, that is just really gorgeous and bold and I love that choice so much.
It's another Mark Ruffalo play to me. You get the best of both of these worlds from a really capable performer who gets to. So I think part of the appeal for somebody like Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego is that you do get to sort of maintain some prestige because you aren't out there in spandex.
Yeah, like that's a thing, and they're probably definitely not going to have him in some sort of thing. Yeah, that's the thing. They're probably not going to have him in some sort of like antiquated like foam core rock outfit going like bah, 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 bah. They might, I mean, he might be there on set in like, I mean, I would say based on Marvel's reputation is he will 1000% be on set in a mocap suit. You know, if they're going to have what's her name from Borat 2 literally on set playing Astro the dog during, and Sean Gunn playing Rocket for all those years, I would assume that he's going to be on set and like is not going to, he's just going to be in a, or James Brolin as Thanos, he's just going to be in a gray and black dotted suit and potentially like with like a head on top of his head so that you look like his eyes are up here. Don't look here, look at his eyes. It's like they had, maybe it's like those pictures with Josh Brolin when he's walking around as Thanos and he has these like two big things coming out of his back that are like red dots, and they have to be like, don't look at Josh's eyes, look at these red dots, which is an actor, I gotta say, is really great to not be able to make eye contact with your performer.
It always elicits the best
Ideal
performance to have no human connection. It's always the best, looking into a void of some kind.
Exactly. Never.
I would love it. I would love it if the Thing shows up in this Fantastic Four movie and he looks just like one of the dudes that hangs out in front of Chinese theater on Hollywood Boulevard. Just like it's all like the arms don't bend, and you can still see his penis in the shorts, like some reason,
just like sitting like this. And it's like just hundreds of millions of dollars on the most like high-tech digital effects, everything. And then just like, hold on one second.
There's a scene where he has to cry and you just see a fingertip come out of the eye of the mask.
And like, and then afterward, Kevin Feige's like, look, man, I can't make a stretchy guy, a flaming guy, and a rock guy. Come on, man. Like come on. Nobody know about it. Come on. I can't do it.
Yeah, Team Guga. You can't just one of you be a regular person like it. I got a mask.
Invisible Woman is an easy get. You just film nothing and then have her put it in on doing the voiceover on it. There was
ADR. You can add her scenes as backplate shots.
Yeah, like just get a bunch of B-roll and just like add her in there. I'm reading the new book, the MCU book that Joanna Robinson from The Ringer and Dave Gonzalez from The Ringer just put out. It's huge, comprehensive of the Marvel Studios. It's an amazing book. And they're talking about how who was it? Carolco they made that like infamous Fantastic Four movie that in order to keep the rights. So in order to keep the rights to a lot of these properties, you had to actually use it. And so they were getting up to use it, and they were like, well, look, we just got to make something. And so they got it's a Roger Corman made Fantastic Four movie that was never released. And they actually, in theory, like it's rumored that they just burned all the copies. But in their production notes, they were like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to make a flaming person and a guy stretch? And apparently, like in one of the scenes, the stretching arm is very clearly just like a pole in his arm sleeve. But then they said about the Invisible Woman, they were like, well, yeah, we just point the camera at an empty space and then just have the ADR the voice in. Done. That's cheap.
I've always thought about that for cartoons. Like, is an animator super relieved when their character has a full face mask? Like, I don't have to draw lips. I don't have to draw dialogue.
All right, I got one mouth. It's like that great joke on Parks and Rec when when Adam Scott's character is out of work and he's like, "Oh, I've been doing some stop motion," and he shows it, and it's like 2 seconds long. It's like somebody getting up and walking, and they're like, "That's it." He's like, "I've been working on that for 6 weeks."
Yeah,
because that's how many shots it takes. Speaking of something they've been working on for more than 6 weeks, Star Trek. I finally now have access to Paramount Plus, so I have started watching some of the Star Trek's TV shows, and they're wonderful. Lower Decks is great. Brave New Worlds is fantastic. It's a prequel show. Well, Deadline reports that Paramount is developing another Star Trek movie, and they've tapped Andor director Toby Haynes to helm the project, with Seth Grahame-Smith to write the script and J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot producing. This is separate from the Star Trek IV, which apparently is still in active development, with Deadline referring to that film as the final chapter. This new movie that is being developed by Toby Haynes is rumored to be a prequel. So I don't know. I'm trying to get some details as to what there is supposed to be happening in this, but there's not a lot of details. It's just all they know is that it's a prequel. That's all.
I'm actually seeing here they announced the title for Star Trek 4, and it's like the subtitle Star Trek 4, just a big old horse.
I'd watch that. I'd watch that movie. I'd watch that movie, man. Put a big old horse in space? Sure.
Space horse.
Engage.
Make it so.
Make it so. Make it so. I don't know. Star Trek movie prequel. I'm assuming that's going to be some sort of like Kirk in the Academy type movie. I don't know. Sure. I don't care. Why not? Bring it. Whatever. I like seeing Star Trek content. Why not?
Bacula was a prequel series. Bacula's series was like the first. It wasn't about the first ships of the line that had like warp drives and could go to other.
The first warp drive ship that was out doing. It was gritty. I think he said shit in one episode. Pardon my French.
Well, I know Picard says an F-bomb in like episode 1 or 2 of that show. By the way, I read like Michael Chabon wrote the pilot of that show. Isn't that wild? That
is wild. Get that money, man. Always
Wonder Boy's own Michael Chabon.
ABC, baby. Always be closing. One more note. This is really
Chabon.
We should always broadcast at this time. We are like especially goofy, and I'm really here for it today.
Do not know what's happening. I'm sorry.
I'm here for it. We're especially goofy, and I love it. Just one more real quick piece of within the quick hits, we're just taking a half an hour. We're another little quick piece of information. This is not really Cape Space even adjacent, but we talk about often on this show how Tom Cruise is actively trying to kill himself in all of his movies that he's making. Apparently, it was announced that they are in the process of developing Top Gun 3 at Paramount with Tom Cruise set to return to the cockpit. And he made it very clear that he would only do the last one if he got to like actually fly the jets. So we have to assume this is true.
I know. If he actually got to die.
Well, here's what I'm saying. This is my pitch on this. This is the only reason why I brought it up, because I'm in the minority in that I did not care for Top Gun Maverick. I found it to be wholly unredeeming, and there's no protagonist and there's no arc, and Maverick starts as a Maverick, and guess what he ends as? A Maverick. Anyway, here's my pitch. There's a 24-year gap. So Top Gun came out in 1986. Top Gun Maverick was supposed to come out in 2020, but then it got delayed because of, I don't know, something that happened that year. And then Tom Cruise insisted that the movie come out in theaters. So they waited until theaters, not only were theaters were open, but were like back. So that's why it didn't come out till 2022. So in theory, there was a 24-year gap in between making the first one and the second one. I am proposing another 24-year gap, and let's put a 90-year-old Tom Cruise in a jet. That's what I'm saying.
Just get him up there in a Joint Strike Fighter or something, turning his bones to dust, shaking him apart.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Thing. There's only a couple of things we know for sure about this man. He wants to die. He wants you to see it, and he wants it to be expensive. That's it. That's kind of his driving force.
There's a fourth fact. There's a couple more. 4, he refuses to see his own kid, and 5, he definitely knows where Shelley Miscavige is. But also,
and 6, he also wants you to want to see it. That's another thing I think. It's not only that he wants you to see it; he wants you to want it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it needs to come. Like you're not going to know that he's going to die in one of these movies. Like he's going to record a bunch of like pre-taped press junkets for like Mission Impossible 12. And it's all going to be like pre-taped. And he's even going to pre-tape this message of being like, hey, thanks for coming out to theaters to watch Mission Impossible 12. Enjoy the show. And then halfway through, dead.
Yeah. Mission Impossible 15. Is it this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, I started watching Reacher on Amazon for research purposes for a project that I'm working on. And
research purposes, right?
No, we can talk about it offline. Does FCF still exist? It definitely does. This is Fan Control Fandom, FCF. So I started watching it. It's really good. The Amazon show is really good, and the actor they cast is really great. And I was like, and the actor they cast is like 6'5" and like, I don't know, 250 easy, like just really like just a chiseled rock of a man. And I was like, well, Tom Cruise played this in the movie. I should watch a little bit of the movie. And I watched it, and it is Tom Cruise, and it's weird to see him in a movie not like actively trying to murder himself. It's wild.
Right. I mean, it's from a kind of a before time where it wasn't like hey, let's spend the summer watching Tom Cruise throw himself off of things. It was a simpler time. And of course, one of the critiques I heard about that movie when it originally came out is that the canonical Jack Reacher from the books is built like a tight end and not a little tiny imp.
Not 4'8" and yeah, like a sprite. Yeah, no, he's huge. Like in the TV show, he's huge. He is.
Doesn't he in the movie? Doesn't he ride a teacup chihuahua into a scene?
Yeah. Yes. And he comes in and everyone's like, "What?" And like, "I can't hear you." He's like, he has to roll up like a piece of paper just to like talk. Anyway,
but it's like a name tag that he rolls up because he's that small. It's not like a 8.5 by 11. He's got to get some. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a note. It's a note card. Anyway, this is on the Fan Controlled Sports Entertainment Network. People want to know when fan controlled football is coming. There's a season coming this summer. Thanks, Freddie Airmail. But we always do one piece of sports news every week to appease the sports gods. And Alex, what's your piece of sports news?
Well, we're back to the track with F1 news, even in the off season, and fan-controlled fandom would like to extend an official so long to now former Haas team principal Gunther Steiner, as he and the team have seemingly mutually agreed to part ways. Steiner was a celebrated figure in the sport, mostly for his off-the-track activities rather than on, known for a comedically short temper, which made him an immediate star on the Netflix series Drive to Survive, which has now also announced it will conclude with its 5th season. Does this spell trouble for the growth of the racing series in the United States of America? Only time will tell. Kenny?
Thank you, Alex. And yet again, it is nothing but drama over here in my sports world. The Lakers are playing some real up and down basketball. Arsenal finished out the year in just a terrible way. And that's my news. I don't have much to say about my teams that I follow, except the Rams are playing in the playoffs. The Rams that'll be kind of a fun story as Jared Goff and as Matthew Stafford makes his way back to good old Detroit, to those old stomping grounds, and Jared Goff faces the team that traded him there.
I find the perfect compliment as a bucket of popcorn is to a movie, for me, is a good narrative on top of a football game. Bringing Matthew
Be right back.
Stafford.
You gotta kill time for 1 second. All right.
Of course, we're talking about Matthew Stafford returning to Detroit, where he spent 12 long seasons, making one appearance in the playoffs over that time. Of course, immediately winning the Super Bowl when he's traded to the Rams for Jared Goff, who will be facing off against Stafford, who's the quarterback for Goff's former team, the Los Angeles Rams, with whom he did go to a Super Bowl unsuccessfully, might I add. So there is a lot of salsa on this particular tortilla chip.
That was a lot of sports talk from you. I was very impressive.
I'm going to have to go to the bathroom in a very bad way after this. It was hard to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what you're really great at is getting all the sponsorship we need for the show week in and week out. Alex, who's our corporate sponsor for the week?
Well, it's social influencer. It's influencer Roger Beeps and his new product, Hype Wipes. Staying fresh and clean while leading an active lifestyle can be tough. That's why influencer Roger Beeps has developed Hype Wipes. Each sheet is coated in soothing aloe and vitamin E. They're made from recycled materials and packaged in environmentally safe materials. And each sheet contains 2 coffee cups worth of caffeine. So a quick wipe down will give you a buzz you can use to fuel your day. Warning, Don't wipe it on parts that don't make sense. You know what we mean. Come on now, use your head. So those are hype wipes from influencer Roger Beeps.
Hype wipes sounds like he's a Mr. Beast kind of guy.
He's on that train, and he's just a squirrel trying to get a nut.
That's all anybody ever wants to do is get that nut. And speaking of somebody who wants to get a nut, Maya Lopez, also known as Echo. We are going to be talking about Echo episodes 1 and 2. This is the new Marvel show that was dropped in a very different kind of way. I kind of want to touch on that first before I do a recap. This show was dropped all at once. For all the Marvel TV shows, they've never released them all at once. They've always come out week in, week out. They did this kind of with What If. They released all 9 episodes over 9 days, and then all 5 episodes of this show dropped at once. They then called it something that's brand new, called a Marvel Spotlight show, so much that it even comes up in the beginning of the show. It tells you that it's a Spotlight show, and that supposedly means that this is kind of existing on its own. We're not going to have, there's definitely not going to be Kang in this. It's not going to tie into kind of the larger narrative. It's just standing out on its own. However, some stuff did happen very quickly in this show that brought a whole bunch of other stuff into the MCU, which we'll talk about separately. But how do you feel about these, this idea of a Marvel Spotlight show?
To me, so far, it really, I haven't felt differentiation.
Independent of the show separately, I will ask what you think about the show second, but I just want to know what you think of this idea of them calling this some sort of Spotlight show.
I like it as an idea. I like that the closed captioning has fanfare by Michael Giacchino in it. I guess I didn't really fully see the brand differentiator. Maybe it's just kind of an edgier tone. They're willing to kind of go there a little more with this, sort of more akin to the Netflix Daredevil series, although not that far. But that's really the only difference I saw between this and. Well, look, there's maybe a little less mirth in this, a little less fun,
whimsy,
funny.
A lot of fun, funny. Well, that to me, I haven't seen it yet. To me, I'm I get that they're not this isn't exactly, but at the same time, I'm this literally, there are scenes from Hawkeye in this. So to try to say that this is separate from a standalone story, but yet is wholly influenced by Hawkeye doesn't sync with me, but whatever. Let's go ahead.
If I could just say, maybe it's just you're not going to move the phase forward in this series. It's going to ping pong off of all this other stuff.
That's true.
We're not going to introduce Wolverine in a post-credit sequence at the end. I think maybe that's more the implication of the Marvel Spotlight, and maybe tone as well. That it's not going to be multiversal. It's not going to make the big lore swings or canon swings, I guess. Maybe.
We'll say that's the thing. Let's go to the actual recap now, and we'll say why that's even a little contradicting in that it's not multiversal and Loki multiverse. However, the first episode, titled Chaffa, directed by Sidney Freeland. The whole series is directed by Sidney Freeland, an amazing Indigenous female director. Written by Marion Dare, Josh Feldman, Stephen Paul Judd, and Ken Christensen. A flashback reveals the origins of the Choctaw, with Chaffa emerging as a human from under the earth. So we do start in a whole other kind of sideways verse. In 2007, Maya Lopez is in a car accident with her mother, Taloa, after criminals cut their car brakes. After losing both her leg and her mother in the accident, she moves from Tamaha, Oklahoma to New York City with her father, William. William becomes a commander of the Tracksuit Mafia from Hawkeye, while his employer, Wilson Fisk, also from Hawkeye and Daredevil, aka Kingpin, becomes Maya's adoptive uncle. Years later, Maya witnesses Clint Barton, Hawkeye, assault the Tracksuit Mafia and kill William. Fisk arranges for Maya to work under him, promising to find William's killer. During a mission for Fisk, Maya is attacked by Daredevil, We'll talk about that in a second. In December 2024, Maya encounters Barton, and after learning Fisk arranged William's death by tipping off Barton, avenges her father by shooting Fisk in the eye. 5 months later, Maya returns to Tamaha and meets with her cousin Biscuits and her uncle Henry. She convinces them to not let anyone else know of her presence. Maya asks Henry to help her dismantle Fisk's operation so she can take over his empire, but Henry refuses, not wanting to endanger his family. Elsewhere, Fisk, who had survived, recovers from his injury in his hospital. That's the first episode. So episode 2 is called Lowok, also directed by Sidney Freeland. Story by Marion Dare, Ken Christensen, Josh Feldman, and Stephen Paul Judd, and Rebecca Roanhorse, and Bobby Wilson. Teleplay by Marion Dyer, Josh Feldman, Stephen Paul Judd, and Ellen Morton. In a flashback to Alabama 1200 AD, Lowok is participating in a game of Choctaw stickball. When Lowok's team is close to winning, the opposing side sends out a formidable warrior who helps to even the score. Lowok is desperate to avoid exile for her team if they should lose, and receives a vision during an intense melee. With her hands glowing, Lowok breaks out of the melee with the ball and secures victory. Maya, now we're in present time, enlists Biscuit's help in hijacking a cargo train guarded by Fisk's men. She locates a munitions container and plants a homemade bomb inside one of the crates. As she attempts to get off, her prosthetic leg becomes stuck in a coupling. Maya receives a vision of her ancestors, then manages to push the coupling off, free her leg, and her hands begin to glow. The shipment arrives at one of Fisk's armories in New York. Zane dispatches men to unload the crate as a giant truck drives by my window, triggering Maya's bomb, which destroys the facility. Maya later gets a new prosthetic leg from Scully, who reveals that one of the women in Maya's vision was Chafa, the first Choctaw. Henry learns about the munitions explosion and later confronts Maya, warning her to stop these attacks before she ends up hurting people close to her. Meanwhile, Chula receives word that Maya is in town, and Body learns of Maya's return in Tamaha from Biscuits. Maya refuses to interact with either of them. Alex, fan-controlled stickball, let's do it. What do you think of the show? First 2 episodes.
Oh man, I had such a good time. It's very, very cool to see something that is this different. Not that the show in and of itself structurally is so avant-garde or whatever, but it did strike me that the more you open up representation in all of these in all of these mediums, and genuinely so, like, or you want people to approach it with a genuine sort of spirit, like including people behind the scenes who represent the culture you're trying to look at. But and that long way to say that it struck me that the more inclusive you get, the more vibrant you can make your project look, just exposing people to things that don't look like what they usually see on television. And I just think it's so cool to spend so much time going like, I think we've just been watching Native American performers for this like uninterrupted kind of several minute sequence. Beyond that, it's a fun ride. And like, you know, you always want things to be good, fun, and also check all the boxes for you, you know, socially too. And this really did it. I held myself off to just watching the first 2 episodes because I knew we were going to.
So did I. I did not go ahead.
So I'm very, very excited to keep going and complete this series. You know, I think we're going to get into something that you have in the show notes for a little bit later, but the moment where she grabs her prosthetic leg during the fight, she rears it back, grabs it, holds it, and kind of uses that to create more tension to swing it around harder. Do you remember this moment in the fight scene?
Yeah.
It was like, this is a kind of a perfect example of how Marvel generally approaches their characters. There's something, I think basically the thing is, there's something wrong with this person, but they can use it to their advantage, right? So like, you know, the Hulk is somebody, originally he loses his temper, he becomes this mad, you know, beast, and Daredevil's blind, he has all these other senses. All of the mutants can do these amazing things, but society hates and fears them. Whereas DC usually, there's something wrong with the power and not the person. Marvel is all about putting, you know, really baking in these sort of impediments to people and making them the advantage that they use to make that makes them the thing you want to see. And I thought like Echo as a counterpoint to Daredevil in that spirit was so perfectly articulated here.
Yeah, I love that. For me, before I actually talk about the show in general, I want to go back to what you said first as well, just to drive that home. This show is incredible, not necessarily content-wise, but just for what it is doing. This show is not only is it an Indigenous hero, it is a hero who is living with a disability. It is a woman, and there's a lot of things when studios try to make things to try to like tick boxes that think like, oh great, like this character checks 3 boxes, so now we don't have to worry about anything else in this, and we can put her in like, you know, the whitest story possible. But it's the everything else. Like this is a wholly Indigenous story. Like if you watch Reservation Dogs, they just basically took every single awesome actor from that movie and that TV show and gave them stuff to do here because they're great. They're really great performers. And the show is doing something that, you know, the reason why we couldn't do as noon is because my writing partner and I had a meeting on one of our projects, and you know, he is, and you are Latinx. My writing partner is Latinx, and one of the things that we are always talking about is, you know, not necessary, and this is something I think that Simu Liu and Issa Rae did kind of jokingly at the Golden Globe, which is like, yes, we want to be represented, but it's not just, we don't want to just tell like stories that you would expect to see. Like for Latinx stories, we don't just want to tell stories that take place in the barrio or take place in Boyle Heights. We want to be people who fall in love or have issues or, you know, have day-to-day jobs, because we do, like, you know what I mean? Like that specific story. And this show is doing that in showing it, but in also at the same time highlighting cultures and highlighting which Reservations Dogs did a great job too, showing day-to-day life that's so specific, that's so different, that's so specific to that culture, but also at the same time normalizes it and shows it in a way that's like, well, yes, we it's not being called out, but it is, but it isn't. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
I mean, I think generally speaking, there's a thing in media that happens, a phenomenon that is noticed by people of a minority background, that normalcy is equated with whiteness.
For sure.
A character who doesn't ever intersect with their ethnic background is a white character. If that character is not white, they will always intersect with their ethnic background. It will always be a key, which is great, which we can celebrate these things, but normalcy and ethnicity do not go together like whiteness and normalcy do in media, or at least they haven't. And I point to things like, I can't remember, like the comedy that came out several years ago, Queen Latifah, and that crew. It was like about the crew of women who get in trouble. It's almost like a Hangover thing.
Oh, Girls Trip
crossover. Yes. Okay. So from my recollection, the humor, the experience, the characters, they were all black, having a black experience, but the humor wasn't.
They go to Essence Fest. They go to Essence Fest, which is specifically a black festival.
If you swap out those kinds of details, we've seen that comedy from a group of white men, sometimes from a group of white women. And this time we just got to see it from a black perspective, and a black perspective that reads quote unquote normal. And so all that long way to say, where's the jokes, funny man? Make me go.
Sorry,
laugh
I know. I will go. I will get there. Trust me.
For 5 minutes about ethnicity and media, but
well, you're the one who should be. I'm the white guy. You're the half Latin guy. You're the one who should be taking up more space than I am.
Well, and you know, thank you for being an ally.
Solidarity. No, I just like, to me, like, because I hear this a lot when we're talking about content and stuff, is that like there are things about the Indigenous experience with the Latin experience that actually is specific to that culture, but also universal. You know, like there's no reason why that Girls Trip is a great example. Like hungover, like Wild Night Out is a genre of movies. Like it happens all the time. So just because it's presented as different doesn't mean that people of that specific culture can't tell that story. And so that's what's so cool about this is that we're getting the superhero, we're getting the indigenous disabled superhero, and at the same time we're also showcasing something that we don't normally see or don't even get the opportunity to see in storytelling. And at the same time, we're also letting those actors play like real people. You know what I mean? Like how many of these indigenous, especially like, what's his face? Graham Greene is in this, who was nominated for an Academy Award for Dances with Wolves. And how many times has he had to have played like, a very, I'm not going to do the voice, but, a very kind of stereotypical Native American person. And for them to be like, to be able to play just people who exist in the world, who have jobs and who wake up and put their pants on and then are also indigenous, like that to me is what I think is one of the strengths of the show. And we did it. Thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. No,
we saved the world from, I mean, I think too, the more that you increase diversity and increase representation, the less each individual performer or story or idea will have to articulate the entirety of that person's experience, that ethnic or national experience. It can just be the person who wakes up, puts their pants on as a Mexican person, as a Native American person, and goes and does their job. And every week doesn't have to face discrimination or whatever, because we have to talk about the whole experience.
Yeah.
So this is our one chance. So yeah,
I just want to say that, and because that's what I think is one of the pure strengths of the show. I think another one of the pure strengths of the show is the casting. The fact that Marvel has nailed not once but twice in terms of casting one of their characters of color with full-blown unknowns. Like Iman Vellani was. She was not. These people they're actors, but she had not booked anything major, and then is cast as Ms. Marvel. And then Alaka Cox, who also, she is an actor, but had not booked anything major, and is cast in this role that is a very specific role. Like, not only is she an indigenous woman, she is an indigenous woman who is deaf. Like, there is. Disability is something that is often played by people who don't actually have the disability. And she doesn't, she has both of her legs. She's not missing one of her legs. They're doing that digitally. But she's amazing. She's really, really good. Like they just really, really nailed it with her, because she has to be able to communicate so much with her face and with her timing and with her hands, because she's speaking with her hands, and she does a lot of her own stunts. I mean, what a find.
I agree. You've got to. By the way, she is actually an amputee.
Never mind then. Sorry.
That's what I was gonna say. I thought she was actually, and so it's like it's even that's. I mean,
that's another level.
Like even better, but like that. You would hate to have to make any kind of compromise for the sake of the fan out there who doesn't get the chance to see themselves represented on the screen there very much. That you have both of those people that are like, you have people that are, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are amputees and are also deaf and or hard of hearing. There's also people that are in those individual categories who now don't have to watch a performer faking it or whatever.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for pointing out to me her actual disabilities that she was born with. As we are being told, she was born with both disabilities. Yeah, and it's just what she brings to the role is just, it's not, again, if I was talking about ticking boxes, she doesn't just tick the boxes. She ticks the boxes, but she also is really good, and she's able to handle a lot of this stuff and basically carry this show in terms of content. I will say I liked probably the second episode more. The first episode was a lot of table setting. And basically, for the first time in a Marvel show that I've seen in a long time, they usually are like, yeah, if you haven't watched Hawkeye, I'm sorry, you're not gonna know what's going on. They are very much are like, let's get you caught up. And here's some stuff that I don't even know if it would actually help you if you hadn't seen Hawkeye. I don't know if that all the stuff that we saw from Hawkeye in this would actually make you feel like, oh, I don't have to watch Hawkeye now. It still to me was like, you're not getting everything here.
I mean, generally, I agree with you, and I tend not to like origin stories or redos, but I thought that they did a pretty capable job of sort of expanding out the, I think they would sometimes literally basically go from something you saw in Hawkeye and pan over to something they shot for Echo as if it was contiguous, and I thought they handled all that stuff pretty well. I was intrigued enough by what was going on, and frankly, a lot of goodwill for me as a viewer was carried from that insane beginning, and I mean that in the best way. Like, the introduction of the
Yes.
Choctaw creation mythos and the way that it was depicted was so like intriguing, and in both episodes, those like precursor sort of flashbacks.
Yeah, the stick ball in the second episode I thought was tremendous. I really
like a 7-story pyramidal mound, and then the title card Alabama was like,
I loved that.
That was cool.
That was so really cool. That was really cool.
And if these genre projects are about taking us to these unseen or unfamiliar worlds, like some of those exist here just within our past, and that was a really great example of that, because you could have put really any American city over that and gotten a jaw dropper, but Alabama as just that state name over there, like it was such a kind of a, forgive this term, but alien image that they conjured there. It was really, I think thematically powerful too. It just really, really cool stuff. They're doing some really, really cool stuff, and I'm you can turn your nose up all you want at like the corporatist mouse house or whatever, but they're doing it right.
They're definitely trying. One thing that they did in this one that we didn't think that they went to painstaking lengths, as we talked about earlier about this like Marvel Spotlight, to like say that this is Spotlight on its own thing, and then cut to 10 minutes in Daredevil, and not the Daredevil that we saw in She-Hulk. It's Charlie Cox, but he's in his outfit from I think it's probably even season 1 of the Netflix show. So she's canonically now, all of those shows are now considered part of the MCU. So this is a Spotlight show, but also it brought all of these things into the MCU proper. So like all of those things now are MCU.
Like I said, we're not moving the phase forward, and we, I think it properly places itself. Like, this feels very comic booky to me, by the way. This first issue of a new series with a new character, and this sort of intersection between what you've seen before with, here's a character with a previous costume, placing this in a certain specific time. Here's an extension of a scene you saw before in another series where that character, sometimes you'll see, this character's first appearance is this issue, but they're only in 2 panels where they tell you buy Blue Beetle #1 on sale now, where you actually see that extruded out. So in that sense, I really liked that approach.
I'm not. I just was like wholly surprised. I was like, because I had read on. I think I sent you a message saying that was like the Netflix Marvel shows are now considered part of the MCU, and they even moved them into the timeline on Disney Plus. And then I was just watching the show, and then like 10 minutes in, I'm like, okay, so that's how they did it. All right, got it.
There's a move that Daredevil does in that fight scene where he jumps wholly upside down through a single shelf. That is one of the cooler things I've ever seen in a TV show, especially a superhero show. But I think that it's interesting to me that I think that the Netflix series a little bit suffered from, in their time, only being connected to themselves and not really more broadly. I think that kind of knocked them down a little bit. But ironically now, that's what people are asking for. Less with the multiverse, less connectivity.
Yeah.
We want these little things. And so, perfect swing at the perfect time. Let's make our own little universe here where we can play and not have to be in space fighting Googa all the time.
Yeah, I put this in the notes too. Like, this is definitely a street level story, and it's fairly simple. I'm hoping we get more. We have the like character stories, which is like, we know that Maya was sent away with her father 20 years ago. She hasn't really been back. One thing I will say, it is wild that people just recognize her right away. Like, it's been 20 years and they're like, Maya? Like, wouldn't you be like, who are you? Like, I mean, the little girl they cast to play young Maya too, also an incredible actor, and actually does kind of look like her.
She's related to Alakwa Cox. She's a cousin of some, like a second cousin.
She is. Think. Oh, she's incredible. But I'm not.
Shout out to Jessica Clemens on New Rock Stars. I just saw that. I haven't mentioned them in like 45 minutes on this show, but New Rock Stars. Jessica Clemens dropped that one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just. I'm surprised that some people aren't like. I think the guy in the beginning, what's his name, Buckets or Biscuits? I think he's a little bit like, Biscuit. Huh? But then like every other person after that is just like, hello, Maya. Like, no, they know right away. And part of me's like, come on. But it just seems that,
that was very thin as well. But I also could imagine that maybe not a lot of people coming and going from this community. And when somebody who looks a little bit like you shows up, they're like, oh, I know who that is.
Yeah, maybe. It is very interconnected.
There again, it's like, all you'd really have to do is like she shows up and you start talking to her and Maya responds in sign language. That could cue a person. Wait a minute. There's only one girl I know who was hard of hearing, and also I think an amputee.
Maya, got it. Yeah, no, for sure. That's a good point. I haven't really considered that. But like some of the set pieces, I love the fact. I don't know. That's another thing too. I'm having a little hard time with is knowing who everybody is. I know who her grandmother, the mother of the woman who died in the opening scene. I know who she is. I know who Bonnie is, who's supposed to be her cousin from the beginning. Mm-hmm. The guy who she's talking to in the skate rink, which by the way, that set piece I just the guy is also running like a shady operation via train for Fisk, but then also owns a skate rink. Is just, I mean, we all aspire to live that kind of life. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't know who that guy is.
Head of hair. I'm heading that way. I love that dude.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Like, I don't know.
That performer?
Like, no. How to relate to the story? I don't know if he's her cousin or uncle. That's what I'm.
I think that's her uncle. I think that's her dad's brother. That's because remember, like her grandmother says, don't get involved with the Lopez boys because they're like, her dad was a Lopez. I think that's her brother, her dad's brother.
Okay, then that's who that is, because I did not know who that was, and I was like, why is it such a big deal? But
well, that's why we have this show, Kenny, so that we can figure out who the people on the show are.
Who the people on the show are. But it seems like all she's doing, like, here's the other thing too that I'm hoping, I'm not like knocking this against the show, but if I don't get this question answered, I may have some questions. But my only is that she shot Fisk in the face, which a lot of people would think like you don't come back from that, but it is comics accurate. Like Echo does shoot Fisk, like Kingpin does get a big scar on his face, and it is because Echo shoots him. That does happen because Echo is often seen with Daredevil. She is that street level kind of hero, but if she shot him in the face, she has to think that he's probably dead. So is she trying to tear down his operation to kind of tear the whole thing down, or is she trying to lure him to come out to Oklahoma?
That's an interesting question.
Not sure. That's what I'm not like. Don't get me wrong. The whole set piece on the train, I thought was the best Marvel train sequence since Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it might be the only one since Falcon and Winter Soldier. But I really enjoyed that sequence. I thought it was good, and it reminded me of obviously the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny because it was a night train sequence, but also it just was a good reminder of how contained this show is going to be. It's just her. This isn't like a train full of soldiers that she's going to fight. It's like a freight train, and she's just trying to get into one little car, and that's the level of kind of dilemma that we are so far. Besides that really great, the two like kind of fight scenes in the flashback, we haven't seen her really fight in the present yet.
Right. I think that this show's so much fun. Sorry.
No, it is. I do have. I'm playing mostly devil's advocate today, but as I did enjoy it. But I have another kind of devil's advocate question, advocate-y question. But go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that there's this show has so much going for it, and I think that you're right about that train sequence. It's the tension that they dial up. It's very, very well shot. I think that's kind of a hard thing to pull off. Yeah, a very, very competent thing they did there. And then the leap onto the truck, the discovery of the powers.
Yeah, see, that's something.
Ahead,
well, I hope. Well, that's not my question. We gotta start wrapping it up soon. But we can't just talk forever. Yeah, I am curious to see like what's happening there. You know, Echo in the comics traditionally does have like a kind of handprint across her face that does have that kind of swirly line on it. So maybe there's something else coming there. But she's still. That's why it was so great to introduce her. If you haven't watched Daredevil, or if you haven't watched Echo, to kind of introduce, to see her first fighting Daredevil, to see, you know, the blind hero fighting the deaf hero, and having them both like being like unbelievably amazing in their fighting techniques and their fighting skills. Like there's something really kind of poetic about that. I don't know where I was going to go at the end of this sentence, but that's where I end my thought. But I have another.
I mean, it happened to me. I mean, I what I really, really liked about the fight scene between Daredevil and Echo is that at least I got the sense that it was a trap for Daredevil so that Maya could figure him out. That it was okay that she lost. All she had to do was escape and learn about his abilities to report back to Fisk. And I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing too, is they also haven't really, like, her skill set hasn't been really explained. So if you haven't seen Hawkeye, but you know, here an hour and 11 minutes in, she much like, not much like, but you know, Daredevil, Matt Murdock, it says that he has like kind of elevated senses. And in the TV show, the Netflix show, it's kind of brought out via his training as like a samurai. Basically, he learns to overly use his sentence, and it's almost like, it's kind of teased as almost like an echolocation, but it's not really. But he can like, his hearing is and sense of smell is so good that he can map out like a whole room before he gets into it. And Echo is somebody who can't hear but uses her heightened sense of vision and her kind of to watch people and watch people's kind of tells and to kind of know what they're going to do before they do it. And that's her strength as a fighter. So that's like, they haven't really shown that yet, but that's what she does. That's why it's called Echo. That's why she's called Echo, because because she watches you and takes in what your movements are after the fact, and then puts them back to you.
She can kind of record them and play them back. Anybody's fighting style, she can kind of hit them back with, making her, at least for, you know, somebody maybe even up to Captain America, could probably fight him to a standstill. He'd probably wear her out.
What if Echo, this is just for the comic book nerds, what if Echo fought Taskmaster? Because Taskmaster is also known as somebody who can watch anybody fight and immediately pick up their fighting style. So if they're just like, it would be kind of like the end of Secret Invasion, except you wouldn't have to do any sort of baby arms or whatever. You wouldn't have to do Drax arms or whatever. It would just be them fighting.
I think they would just stand across from each other, like staring. You just watch their eyes darting around as they're like trying to figure. No, she'll do this, and it just.
Yeah, they're always like, yeah, nope,
not actually moving. Just no.
And then they just give up.
Covering their hand over chest pieces. No.
And they just give up, and they're like, wait, it would have been a draw anyway.
I'm going this way. You going this way? If you're going that way, I'm going to go the other way.
Yeah, because it's weird when you say like goodbye, and then you both walk the same way. No, I've already said bye. I can't keep talking to you. Alex, who's the big winner of this episode?
I think whoever is in charge of the sound designer, the sound editor, basically the folks in charge of the sound experience on this show, because it is really something else. You know, simulating, you know, again, where her differences become advantages to her, and giving a sense maybe of what that feels like to somebody who, you know, doesn't know what that feels like. Is we as hearing people are deaf in our own way to the deaf person's world, and to sort of bridge that gap a little bit sonically in a way that adds texture was like, I think it was really smartly done. I really appreciated that.
I love that comment. There was that great time where she was on. The choices to drop the audio out are always really, really intentional and really great. There was one that sticks out in my mind is when she's on top of the train and they take the sound out and she's kind of moving between train cars, like on top of a train. And it's like, if you don't have that sensory experience of like hearing a train and like hearing all of what that entails, like that's a whole other experience for you. And we, as hearing and able-bodied people, like we don't even think about how much of your sense experience is all of your senses. And how if you take one of those away, like she was fearless on that train because she's never heard what standing on a train would even be like. She's had every movie. There's been hundreds of movies of people running on trains, and she's never heard that. So she doesn't know any of that tension or any of that felt experience because she's never heard it. And so to take the sound out there, I thought was just like such a really, really wonderful choice. My big winner, I think, is still Alakwa Cox. I just think this is just really, it's one of these deals where she is such a specific performer, and I hope that there isn't, after this show, like this isn't the only thing that she does. And I know that Hollywood is very small-minded and is not forward thinking, but it would be an absolute shame if she was just Echo. Like she is a wonderful performer, and like just find stuff for her to do. There's no reason why you can't just take somebody who you in a show and just make them somebody who can't hear and then just have ASL. Like it's just, be brave, make bold choices, Hollywood. And speaking of people who need to make bold choices, Kevin Aloysius Feige. I'm assuming your name is Aloysius.
Kevin.
This is, I understand it's a Marvel spotlight, and that might be your excuse. But we are back in the MCU, though. This is an MCU show that you took the advantage to bring. Iron Fist is now officially MCU canon. I guarantee the actor who played Iron Fist was like, oh, am I going to work again? Because he's not good. He's not a good actor. But now you telling me, when she goes from New York, she literally goes from New York to Oklahoma. Louisiana's not that far away. That's all I'm going to say.
What Native American people don't like shrimp? Is that what you're saying, Kevin? Because I think that's a little, at this point in 2024, not very 2024 of you to insinuate that Native American people don't like or incapable of appreciating shrimp, which I think is what you're inferring by excluding Sam Wilson's shrimping boat from the proceedings. I think we got to turn this spotlight into a lighthouse that's going to guide our favorite boat into some friendly waters on this Echo show.
I don't know how you get that boat from the ocean to the mainland in Oklahoma, but that's up for you to figure it out. You're the one who made like, all kinds of stuff fly and stuff. Figure it out.
I don't know that we can go to Kevin Feige about this one because he seems pretty resistant to a shrimping boat being anywhere, let alone Bucky and Sam's sister going at it in a very biblical fashion on the poop deck.
On the poop deck. I've realized we forgot to ask, is this Star Trek or Star Wars?
It's a very interesting question. I think this is very Star Trek-y to me.
That's what I was going to say.
Of more serious tone, the more, there's a more thematic air. The really, really big Guga stuff we see, that myth creation experience, separately from a lot of other MCU shows, that isn't explicitly told you that that's a real thing that happened. It could be. Yeah. It could be just as real as the stuff that happened in What If to that tribe in that episode, but it could just be somebody's literal mental conception within the show of that creation.
I agree. I do think this is Star Trek. I do think because Star Trek Trek was definitely, especially in the original content, because of the fact that it was a show on television in the 1960s and the budget was probably $24 an episode. Like, you get a lot more
in 2024 dollars. That was $100.
Yeah, so you have to tell more contained stories. So that's where we are. We did it. Episodes 1 and 2 of Echo.
Hallelujah.
I was waiting for you to say Echo. It's fine. We'll do the next 2.
Cute.
We'll do the final 3 next week. We'll do all 3 next week. But first, we got to get a read from the influencer about his wipes.
Hype wipes from influencer Roger Beeps. Hype wipes are the recyclable wipes that sanitize and energize. They're also developed in conjunction with plumbers to be flushable and septic safe. Influencer Roger Beeps wants to remind customers that these wipes are quite potent, and a quick swipe of the back of the neck or across the collarbone, quote unquote, should do you. But please use your head. No wiping your PPs, VVs, or BBs with it. That's what Roger Beeps says about his hype wipes.
Oh boy,
that covers all the bases, right?
You're gonna give Mr. Beast some ideas here. We're gonna see Mr. Beast like wipes very soon.
Hype wipes.
I just realized I don't have the game time stinger queued up, but you know what time it is, right?
I do know what time it is, Kenny.
I have it queued up now.
My second favorite piece of media in the galaxy, and I don't even mind hearing a little bit of it twice.
Oh man, I would love for someone to like be searching on Twitch for something to watch and then stumble upon this show at just that moment. That's like a dream. That's like a dream of mine. Alex, it's your turn for the game. What game we playing this week?
This week we have a game I'm calling Blue is the Warmest Beetle, the ultimate Blue Beetle quiz game.
Okay, so, a character I know barely anything about, so I can't wait for this.
Oh boy, well I hope I can handhold you through it. I'm going to read you a fact about a blue beetle, and you will answer with either golden for Golden Age Blue Beetle Dan Garrett, who was the Blue Beetle up until the 50s and 60s, silver for Silver Age Blue Beetle Ted Cord, or modern for Modern Age Blue Beetle Jaime Reyes. So you're going to answer which version of the character that this applies to. So for instance, if I asked which Blue Beetle is of Latin descent, you would say modern, because Jaime Reyes is of Latin descent.
Reyes. Got it.
Okay. It's so easy. So number 1, which one flew around in the Blue Beetle bug? Modern, silver, or golden?
Golden.
I'm sorry, it's silver. Which was created by Charles Wojtkowski?
Golden.
That's right.
Hey!
Which one always gets randomly chosen for extra security checks on international flights?
Why are you making me do this? I don't know if
just asking the question.
I know. Okay. Modern.
It's the modern one. That's true.
Okay.
Which one was often accompanied by Joan Mason, a reporter for the Daily Blade?
Silver.
Golden. Sorry.
Oh, the Daily Blade.
Which one is secretly a genius billionaire inventor?
Silver.
That is silver. Ted Cord. Which one is most likely to be asked, no, where are you really from, if they tell someone they come from an American city?
Oh, man. It's tough that I have to say the right answer here. Modern?
It is. You get the pass from me, my friend. Which one hid controls for his iconic vehicle in his gauntlet?
Well, based on the pattern, I'm going to say golden.
No, it's silver. The silver age. Which one has a last name that means kings?
Modern.
Modern, that's true. Reyes means king.
Reyes. Yo hablo español.
Which one makes people the most mad for some reason?
Mad for some reason?
For some reason.
Modern.
The modern. Which one is just trying to live a normal life in this country without waking up in a skin that other people treat like a radical political decision?
Modern.
That's true. Which one has had to countenance racial degradation aimed at themselves and their family that the politically empowered either cannot imagine or outright enjoy watching?
Modern.
That's true. Which one used to wear a hat?
Golden?
That's true, and that's blue is the warmest beetle, the ultimate blue beetle quiz.
Oh, that was excellent. Oh, that was the perfect game for me. I loved that. That was wonderful. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Jess really nailed it there too. She got a lot of them right. Oh God, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I forget, do we do an ad read now? No, after Hoopla. Now we're gonna do the Hoopla recommendations. You go on Hoopla on your phone, your computer, and you can download comics and read them digitally. Alex, and for free, just put it in your library card. Alex, do you have a recommendation for the folks?
Well, it's not free. We pay for it with our taxes. Get your head on straight. But I would say
well done. Well, no, I love it. That was a great one. That was a great one.
I recommend the nerdiest thing you could possibly do this long holiday weekend is to read every single collected edition of DC Comics Crisis on Multiple Earths. You're going to see some real wackadoodle characters, including real comic book writers, Julius Schwartz, Carrie S. Bates, and can't remember the other guy's name, but they write themselves into a multiversal tale where they interact with the Justice League and Justice Society in the 1970s, and they like using all of the attendant slang terms like glad rags.
That does sound like a real.
You got the new glad rags there, Julius. Like, you know.
Hey, let's all go down to the
people
sock
actually talk to human beings. Yeah.
That's great. I'm still making my way through all the Scott Pilgrims. I'm going to recommend, based on what we just watched, there just came out last year a run of Daredevil and Echo. It is you can get this. This was just from 2023. It's okay, I will say. But if you want a good, it is very much the tone of this show in that it's a Hell's Kitchen story. Daredevil traditionally romps around in Hell's Kitchen, but it's good. You get a good sense of who Echo is, who in this actually, and I believe traditionally uses like swords. So maybe at some point we get to see Alakwa Cox do some sword play. Maybe that'd be kind of nice.
I would love that. And I think actually if I remember correctly, the like Echo origin, like introduction in Daredevil way back in the day was pretty fun too. If you can find that on Hoopla.
It might be there. Who knows? And it might not. Ooh, my dog peeked in the frame very quickly. If you were paying attention,
I just saw.
Yeah, she's at the door now. So we got to wrap it up. But we got to do one more ad read, and then we'll talk about our dogs.
Yeah, we got one more for Hype Wipes from influencer Roger Beeps. Hype Wipes are perfect for modern active professionals to only use on the parts that make sense. Influencer Roger Beeps doesn't know what will happen, but, quote, you just see how it feels on your kneecap first, then ask if you can get it near any of your body parts that are always sort of dark or wet. So those are Hype Wipes from influencer Roger Beeps.
Oh my God. That is so unbelievably wonderful. Hype Wipes, baby. All right. So we did see my dog. What did your dog think of episodes 1 and 2 of Echo?
Lupo was really trying to find a way to articulate that he enjoys seeing the Native American aesthetic without it coming off like sort of fetishizing and stuff. We had a long conversation about it. I said, it's always okay to say something's beautiful. And he said, okay, well, I think it's beautiful.
I love that for you. My dog, again, was actually in the living room. She was asleep. Her bedtime is roughly 7:30. From 7:30 on, if she's still awake, she's kind of upset about it. And she was asleep, but she was in the same room with me. So that's always saying something. She usually is like in the bedroom, but for both episodes, which I watched on 2 separate nights, I did not watch them all on the same night. I watched one night and one the other night, and she was there for all of it. So, I mean, kudos to everybody involved.
Absolutely. A big 2 thumbs up from me.
2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up for us. We did it. Another week, another weekend. Thank you for those.
It's unbelievable.
Who sticking it out at 2 Eastern, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, now 6:30 Eastern time.
Thank you to Articulate Amethyst or whatever the hell that comment is from.
Amethyst. Where can the folks find you, Alex?
You can find me on Threads and Twitch and Instagram at Duke_midnight as indicated above, or wherever major magazines are sold.
You can find me at Kenny G. Stevenson on TikTok and at Twitch. I am dedicated to get back on Twitch and play more games. I got some mobile games that I am rocking and rolling that I love and I want to play on Twitch. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching. My dog wants to get out of the room really bad. It's like scratching at the door.
Oh, I've got to go outside in peace so bad.
I know, we got to let you out. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Bye.
Hold on, I got to play the video. Bye.
Bye.
Here we go. Bye.